Imagine a world where cars weren't just machines, but rolling symbols of a system, where every nut, bolt, and questionable design choice was a testament to ideology, bureaucracy, and sheer stubbornness. Behind the Iron Curtain, while the West churned out sleek Mustangs and polished Cadillacs, communist engineers crafted vehicles that were equal parts genius, grit, and, well, gloriously bizarre. Some were rugged workhorses that laughed at impossible terrain. Others? Let's just say they made a Fiat look like a Rolls-Royce. Buckle up, because today we're diving into the top 10 cars from the Soviet era that defined life under communism. And trust me, number 1 is a jaw-dropping masterpiece of excess you won't believe. Before we hit the gas, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to join us for more wild rides through history's automotive archives. Let's kick things off in 1967 Ukraine, where Soviet engineers were handed a simple mission. Build a vehicle that could conquer anything. The result? The LuAZ 969M, a boxy, no-nonsense off-roader that looked like a storage crate with ambitions. This wasn't a car designed to turn heads, it was built to plow through mud, scale cliffs, and laugh in the face of swamps. That would eat a modern SUV for breakfast. Powered by a front-mounted, air-cooled V4 engine and boasting independent suspension on all 4 wheels, the LuAZ was a beast in disguise. Its flat body panels weren't about aesthetics, they were a survival feature. Dent it? Grab a hammer and fix it yourself. No fancy tools required. The windshield folded flat, and the doors were detachable, perfect for dodging branches in dense forests. Oh, and that spare tire bolted to the hood? It doubled as a battering ram for pushing through obstacles. The interior was bare bones, think steering wheel, pedals, and not much else. No frills, no radio, and definitely no creature comforts. But in the remote corners of the Soviet Union, where the nearest garage could be a day's journey away, this rugged simplicity was a lifeline. Fun fact: they kept churning out versions of this indomitable machine until 2001. The LuAZ 969M wasn't just a vehicle, it was a testament to survival through sheer grit. If the LuAZ was the Soviet Union's answer to impossible terrain, the UAZ 469 was its answer to everything else. Born in 1971, this military-inspired utility vehicle was the ultimate do-it-all machine. Cops patrolled in it, doctors used it to reach far-flung villages, and farmers hauled everything from crops to cows in its cavernous cargo bay. Even Communist Party officials had their own tricked-out versions. Why was it so ubiquitous? Because the UAZ 469 was built to be unbreakable. Its 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine churned out a modest 75 horsepower, but it could run on anything from premium fuel to watered-down kerosene. Perfect for a country where gas stations were as reliable as a sunny day in Siberia. The design was pure function: flat panels, exposed bolts, and a canvas roof that leaked like a sieve in rain and turned the cabin into a sauna in summer. Comfort? You got springs in the seats, and that was about it. Driving one was a full-body workout. Steering took Herculean strength, and shifting gears felt like wrestling a bear. But when the snow was waist-deep and the thermometer read 40 degrees Celsius, the UAZ started, rolled, and delivered. Remarkably, its core design was so bulletproof that updated versions are still rolling off assembly lines today, making it one of the longest-produced vehicles ever. In the Soviet Union, this wasn't just a car, it was a lifeline. Now we cross into Poland, where in 1978, FSO unveiled the Polonez, a car that aimed to be a modern, European-style family sedan for the communist world. Built on the bones of the Fiat 125, it was Poland's bid to compete with Western imports. On paper, it had promise: a practical hatchback design, crumple zones that were ahead of their time, and an interior that was downright cushy compared to other Eastern Bloc offerings. But the execution? That's where things got quirky. The Polonez mixed 1970s styling with 1960s tech, powered by engines ranging from a sluggish 1.3-liter to a slightly less sluggish 2.0-liter, all based on outdated designs. Build quality was a gamble. Some Polonez models ran like champs for decades, while others seemed to disintegrate before leaving the factory. The biggest issue? FSO kept building it, barely updated, until 2002. Imagine driving a 1970s relic in the age of iPods and flip phones. Yet, the Polonez became a Polish legend. It was the car you learned to drive in, the one that carried your family on summer road trips, the one that somehow started every frosty morning when fancier imports failed. It wasn't just a car, it was a cultural cornerstone, a four-wheeled chronicle of Poland's shift from communism to capitalism. Czechoslovakia took a different tack from the Soviet Union's tank-like approach to carmaking. Škoda's 120 and 130 series, produced through the 1970s and 80s, were the last of a dying breed. Rear-engine, rear-wheel drive economy cars descended from the VW Beetle but with a distinctly Eastern European twist. These cars were quirky, with engines dangling behind the rear axle, making them lively in dry conditions but downright acrobatic in rain or snow. The 120 had a 1.2-liter engine, while the 130's 1.3-liter was billed as the «sporty» option. Though «sporty» here meant hitting 140 km per hour if you had a long road and a lot of courage. What set Škodas apart was their craftsmanship. Unlike many communist cars that seemed built with contempt, these were thoughtfully engineered. The engines were dependable, the transmissions shifted smoothly, and the bodies resisted rust better than most. The interior was basic but functional, with a heater that actually worked, thanks to the engines. Proximity to the cabin, and instruments that didn't lie. Today, these Škodas have a cult following among collectors, who love their oddball charm and mechanical honesty. They were the last gasp of rear-engine cars. Before Škoda joined the Volkswagen empire, marking the end of a unique automotive era. East Germany's Wartburg 353, produced from 1966 to 1988, was the epitome of "it'll do." This was the car for people who couldn't snag a Trabant and didn't mind a bit of character. Its defining feature? A two-stroke, three-cylinder engine that sounded like a lawnmower on steroids, and spewed a blue smokescreen that could hide a tank. Drivers had to mix oil with their gas, turning every fill-up into a chemistry experiment. But that smoky engine was simple, peppy at low speeds, and easy to fix with basic tools. The Wartburg's boxy body was surprisingly modern for its time, with clean lines and practical proportions. It even had a clever freewheel system to save fuel by letting the car coast. Though this made downhill driving a heart-pounding adventure without engine braking. The interior was bare, with vinyl seats and a dashboard that screamed, "We tried." East Germans loved it anyway. It was the car for Baltic vacations, first dates, and puttering through East Berlin's hazy streets. When the wall fell, many Wartburgs were ditched for Western cars, but today, survivors are cherished relics of a bygone era. In the Soviet automotive pecking order, the GAZ 21 Volga was the ride of the upwardly mobile. Think mid-level bureaucrats, doctors, or successful collective farm bosses. Produced from 1956 to 1970, it drew heavy inspiration from 1950s American cars, with chrome trim, subtle tail fins, and a three-box sedan shape that screamed, "I'm kind of a big deal." Its 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine pumped out 75 horsepower, modest, but enough to cruise comfortably without shaking itself apart. The Volga boasted luxuries unheard of in most Soviet cars: a working heater, a radio that occasionally picked up non-propaganda stations, and, in some models, real leather seats. Built like a tank, it could handle Russia's brutal winters and cratered roads with ease. The steel was so thick it could probably deflect a slingshot, and the suspension laughed off potholes that would swallow lesser cars. It was the go-to for Soviet taxis, police, and even the KGB, who had souped-up V8 versions for chasing down troublemakers. Today, restored Volgas are collectors' darlings, blending American flair with Soviet durability in a way that's uniquely captivating. In 1977, the Soviet Union did something extraordinary. They invented the modern SUV. The Lada Niva was a game-changer, the world's first mass-produced unibody. Off-roader with coil springs and permanent four-wheel drive. While Jeep and Land Rover were still clunking along with body-on-frame designs, the Niva was light, nimble, and unstoppable. Its 1.6-liter engine, borrowed from a Lada sedan, wasn't powerful, but paired with a manual transmission, high, low range, and lockable differentials, it could tackle terrain that would make a tank weep. Short overhangs, great ground clearance, and superb visibility made it equally adept in city traffic or Siberian wilderness. Farmers, geologists, and even the military swore by it. Driving one was an experience, loud, agricultural, and requiring a firm hand on the gearshift, but off-road, it was a revelation. The Niva's design was so brilliant that it's still in production today, with minor updates like fuel injection. Born in a nation not known for automotive innovation, the Niva remains a legend for its simplicity and capability. Czechoslovakia's Tatra 603 was the communist world's answer to a luxury limousine, and it was gloriously weird. Launched in 1956, it looked like a sci-fi prop with its three-headlight front and aerodynamic curves that made modern cars jealous. Powered by a 2.5-liter air-cooled V8 mounted behind the rear axle, it churned out 105 horsepower, enough to cruise at 160 km per hour on the rare smooth roads of the Eastern Bloc. The interior was a socialist palace, with air conditioning, plush seats, and enough rear legroom for party elites to plot their next 5-year plan. But driving it was a high-stakes game. That rear-mounted V8 made handling lively, to put it politely, especially in wet or snowy conditions. Tatra's engineers tried to tame it with advanced suspension and aerodynamics, but the laws of physics weren't easily swayed. Produced until 1975, the 603 was a status symbol reserved for Czechoslovakia's top brass, Cross 1, and you might find yourself in a labor camp. Today, collectors snap them up for their blend of futuristic design and unapologetic eccentricity. The Yugo is the car the world loves to mock, but let's give it some credit. It was based on a solid idea. Born in Yugoslavia in 1980 as the Zastava Coral, it was a reworking of the Fiat 127 and 128, meant to be an affordable people's car. With 1.1 or 1.3-liter engines and a practical, boxy design, it should have been a winner. But Yugoslavia's crumbling economy and slapdash assembly turned it into a punchline. Some Yugos were decent, running reliably for years. Others fell apart faster than a house of cards in a windstorm. Electrical gremlins were legendary. 1 minute your radio worked, the next your headlights didn't. When it hit America in 1985 as the cheapest new car at $3,990, it was both a bargain and a gamble. In Eastern Europe, though, it was a lifeline. Compared to waiting a decade for a Lada or driving a smoky Wartburg, a Yugo was a dream. It was fixable with basic tools, parts were plentiful, and it sipped fuel. The Yugo wasn't a bad car. It was just a bad fit for a world expecting perfection. At the top of our list is the GAZ Chaika, the ultimate symbol of Soviet hypocrisy. While ordinary citizens queued for years to buy a rattling Lada, the Communist Party elite glided around in these massive, chrome-drenched limousines. The Chaika, meaning seagull, wasn't for sale. You had to be a high-ranking official to even sit in one, and even then, it was on loan from the state. Fall out of favor, and your Chaika vanished faster than your career. Its 5.5-liter V8 pumped out 220 horsepower, modest by Western standards but a rocket in a land of 40 horsepower sedans. The styling was a love letter to 1950s American excess. Think tail fins, chrome galore, and a grill that could eat a Trabant for lunch. Inside, it was a rolling palace. Leather seats, thick carpets, power windows, and even bulletproof glass in some models, because nothing says workers' paradise like armored luxury. The Chaika was a contradiction on wheels, a beautifully built machine that mocked the equality it was supposed to represent. It was Animal Farm with a V8, and it's number one for its sheer audacity. That was our rundown of the 10 most iconic communist-era cars, each a rolling snapshot of life behind the Iron Curtain. But we're not done yet. Now, let's shift gears and explore the 10 most absurdly over-engineered communist cars. Vehicles so complex they make a spaceship look like a bicycle. These are the machines that prove when Soviet engineers had a blank check and no one to say, stop, they went all in. So, grab your toolkit and brace for some mechanical madness. And there you have it, 10 communist cars that defined an era. And 10 that took engineering to absurd heights. From the Chaika's elitist luxury to the ZIL's fortress-like complexity, these vehicles were more than transportation, they were stories on wheels. Which one shocked you the most? Would you dare drive one? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more automotive adventures. Next time, we're diving into the wildest concept cars that almost made it to the road. Stay tuned, and keep your wrench handy.